The city of Lethbridge continues to do relatively well economically, but also continues to struggle with a serious opioid crisis, as other cities do, struggles to get enough affordable housing in place as well. Joining me in studio to discuss this and more is Mayor Chris Spearman. Good to have you with us again.
I'm happy to be here, Paul.
You bet. Well, let's jump into the opioid crisis. I mean, it's always an ongoing issue, of course, for many cities across Canada, and Lethbridge has a serious problem with it, obviously. Recently, we've heard from EMS, paramedics, of course, just sharing the high number of calls that they have to deal with, and overdoses, and so it's just kind of taking a toll on them, right? So they're talking about possibly, is there a way to get more staff, more ambulances? I'm not sure exactly what the solution is, but we do have to say hats off to our EMS people. They're doing an amazing job.
They are on the front line, and you have to empathize with what they're facing every day, the frustrations they have dealing with sometimes the same clients over and over again. And this issue without resolution is they're suffering. We have been asking for additional resources from the health minister, and it's a challenge to get them.
Yeah, of course.
The provincial government is one level removed from what's happening in communities, and their focus right now is on managing the financing. I think we need to continue to put the pressure on that we need to have additional resources here in the city of Lethbridge.
Right, and of course with the provincial budget coming out next week as well, right after the federal election, I guess we'll find out what we get. I know there's, promises, of course, money set aside for recovery beds, detox beds, that would be great to get some of that here. It would seem obvious that Lethbridge needs more than the average city in Alberta. Have you heard any rumblings at all, any kind of leaks as to what we might get from the province?
I haven't, and those are always the provincial government's prerogative to announce those. We certainly have been making the case on a regular basis that we need supports. Our needs on a per capita basis are higher than any other city in the province, and hopefully Lethbridge will get the resources that it needs. Providing us with low quality, low caliber resources would certainly not help us resolve the problem in the long run. We need to have resources that are of the same quality as the ones that are available in Calgary and Edmonton. So we continue to need adequate detox, adequate intox. We need to have treatment facilities that are barrier-free, and we need to make sure that people get on the road to treatment and recovery. That's the only way to relieve the stresses in the long run that are happening to those people on the front lines today.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking to see. We need to find a solution here, absolutely.
The number of addicts who are under age 25 are more than half. We can't write off a whole generation of people. We need to make sure that those people get the treatment that they deserve, and they get shown the way to a life that is beneficial and full of hope. So right now there's no hope. There's no way out of this drug addiction issue for those people without those barrier-free accesses to treatment and recovery.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, boy. All right, well, let's switch gears here a little bit to the Municipal Housing Strategy Implementation Plan. And mind you, this does tie in with some of this, what we were just chatting about here as well. Because I understand there is a need for more affordable housing, of course, and smaller units in that. So, so you're looking ahead down the road here, future neighborhoods being built and so forth. Tell us a bit about that.
So the City of Lethbridge, we spent a year and a half developing our municipal housing strategy. It's been brought to us initially in March of this year, which was approved by Council, and it came back again a couple of weeks ago, and we've said implement it. Let's get going forward. Our challenge is finding municipal partners to work with it. So we need organizations coming forward who can qualify for the federal government grants. We're one of the few municipalities that has a strategy in place that's been done in the detail that we have done ours. We know what the needs are, at what level, and they are significant. We've got hundreds of people that need housing. More than 200 are homeless that we've identified. I think the number is 232. We've got over 400 that are struggling to maintain housing because of their housing needs, and we need to provide suitable housing for them. We need to take the data in this report. We need to work with a community organization and probably private builders to develop applications to qualify for federal funding supports.
Okay.
So we need those community organizations who qualify for the federal grants to make the applications. We'll help them. We'll help them write the applications to make sure that we get funding approvals. We need to make sure that we provide housing. When people have housing, that's the first step to resolving other social issues. They need housing so that they can be supported, and then that way they can get trained and contribute meaningfully to our society.
Yeah, you could have a stable base to operate out of, right? Absolutely. And so you're planning ahead, even in these neighborhoods down the road. You're planning ahead that there will be a place for transitional housing and so forth.
Exactly.
So I think it's wise.
It's really important. Given the dimensions of the problem we have, it has to be a priority. And we have all the information in place so that we can qualify for funding. The city itself won't there's no way we can qualify for the grants, but our housing organizations can. And we need to partner them with the local building community to provide the housing that the city needs.
Excellent. Now, construction has started on the new downtown 608 Health Project. This is part of the TRIP, so Targeted Redevelopment Incentive Program. Tell us a bit about how that works.
So what we want to do is make sure that existing buildings in the downtown are redeveloped and repurposed. And that requires sometimes a significant investment. In this case, it's about $4.85 million to repurpose an existing building and turn it into a professional medical center, offering additional medical services. And so that investment has to be repaid in some way. And in order to incent the investment, we've provided a 7-year tax holiday on the improvements. So they will still pay the tax that they currently pay, but in terms of the improvements that they invest, the $4.85 million, that won't be subject to taxation for 7 years. So getting that incentive hopefully will encourage that business and others to do something similar. We have a number of incentive programs for businesses who choose. The downtown residential incentive program is another one. Those who choose to upgrade existing facilities, we want to make sure that we have a vibrant downtown and that buildings that are aging become repurposed. So that's
a win-win then. Yeah,
it is. And then, of course, we've got the downtown clean and safe strategy that we continue to provide and supplement to make people feel comfortable that we haven't forgotten the downtown.
Okay, excellent. Now, at the recent Alberta Urban Municipalities Association convention, the city had made some proposals, and 2 of these city policies were actually accepted by the AUMA, so they'll be lobbying the province on this. One of them had to do with opposing the national mortgage stress test. Tell us about that.
We want to make sure that our housing industry is supported, and they're telling us that the stress test is basically reducing the buying power, especially of first-time homeowners. We want to make sure that our housing industry is healthy and that there are no barriers to owning homes. The national stress test was brought in to address issues in cities like Toronto and Vancouver. We didn't have those issues in the city of Lethbridge, and but by having a national stress test, it unfairly impacted our home buyers, and so we think that the province of Alberta doesn't have to support the national stress test. And some of our financial institutions didn't have to adhere to that. So Alberta Treasury branches that's owned and operated by the provincial government could basically be exempted from the national stress test, and people could access mortgages through that organization.
Yeah, it just seems to be logical, what you're saying there for sure. Lethbridge housing market, Southern Alberta, any thoughts? Still somewhat soft?
It's still soft, and we want to make sure that is a vibrant industry. They employed a lot of tradespeople, and we want to keep people employed and living in this area. We don't want them to think that they have to go somewhere else.
Okay. your second resolution on provincial drug strategy. What is the AUMA going to be asking the province for on this particular
So
issue?
what we asked for was a provincial drug strategy that recognized local needs. And what we wanted to emphasize was a city like Lethbridge, where we really have very little other than the supervised consumption site, we need additional services. So that provincial drug strategy has to recognize what assets there are and what assets are lacking, and how can the provincial government support municipalities and cities like Lethbridge in addressing the drug crisis that's affecting everyone. So recognize that one size doesn't fit all, that what you're doing, don't focus on what already exists in Calgary and Edmonton, focus on what doesn't exist in a city like Lethbridge.
Yeah, that makes sense too. And now a couple of the city's resolutions were not accepted. You wanted to see more recycled plastics used in the production of new plastic. Explain that.
Well, some recycling programs suffer from not having homes for products. So instead of trying to ship our used plastics off to Asia and have those people manage our problem, is there a way that we could help with that issue? Find homes for recycled plastic in Alberta by reusing plastic. And, initially, could we target certain percentages, low percentages at the beginning, but ultimately, maybe in 5 or 10 years, get to maybe 15% of new plastic being produced from recycled plastic. So it's a way of managing our own issue. In the city of Lethbridge, we have developed a recycling program, and we have an up-to-date MRF. We're finding homes for a lot of our plastic, but that's not the case right across the province.
So some of the other municipalities didn't want to go for that because they don't have the same plan in place, I guess, or a place to put these things?
Well, I think it was plastics are developed from oil, and people are protective about the oil industry and wanting to keep that going as well. But I think there's room for both. In this case, the resolution wasn't accepted, and we'll see. We may try again at a future date. We thought it would benefit other municipalities more than it would benefit the city of Lethbridge, because we're much more successful in finding homes for our recycled plastic.
Yeah, interesting dynamics to some of these issues, for sure. You also wanted to see the organization lobby the government to make organ donation enrollment across the province, automatic, with the option, of course, for individuals to opt out if they so desired. That's an interesting one, and that was not approved. So any thoughts on that?
Well, we were inspired by Logan Boulay and his example. And then we saw the province of Nova Scotia make it automatic.
Right.
And we thought, well, wouldn't the province of Alberta do that? Unfortunately, in Alberta, of course, many people value individual rights over collective rights. And I think that was the issue. We received 40% support. I think recognizing that about 80% of Albertans have not signed their donor cards. Logan Boulay was a wonderful example. I think he got 120,000 people to sign donor cards. That's great, but there's 4 million people living in Alberta, more than 4 million. If any one of us had a relative, many Albertans die every year needlessly waiting for organs to be donated. And many people go to the graves with their organs intact that could have gone to people and saved other lives. So people
I appreciate your heart in that. I've signed mine. Okay, I encourage you to do the same. I think sometimes we wrestle with this, if I sign this, does that mean I'm going to die? Well, yes, you're going to die eventually, but signing this isn't going to cause your death to happen any sooner, right?
Yep, there are people in Lethbridge who have died and who are on waiting lists for organs. So they're our neighbors and our friends.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, Council here in Lethbridge voted to defer implementing the Green Cart Organics Recycling Program until at least 2020. But you yourself didn't vote for that. You want to see this getting going sooner than later, right? Do you want to chat about some of those dynamics?
Well, I'm never like to see things winding up in the landfill that could have a better purpose. Now that we have implemented the Blue Cart program, 57% of the content in our garbage bins is organic matter.
Oh, okay.
So that's food and yard waste. All of that doesn't have to go into the landfill. It doesn't have to create harmful methane gases and create liquid leachate that becomes an environmental liability. So I never like to see programs delayed. What it tells me is our priorities are not in the right order. People say we can't afford another cost. I don't think we need to incur another cost. We're going to be doing departmental reviews. The results of those will be coming out within 30 days. And I think we'll be offered opportunities to save money, and there will be opportunities to spend money on different capital priorities. I think implementing a green cart program would complete the suite, and we would have far fewer quantities of materials going into the landfill. So we could easily divert green matter to repurpose it and have it used in our fields locally as fertilizer, and the methane gases could be captured and used to generate energy. That technology already exists. So in the meantime, I will respect Council's decision.
It was made regarding then more of the cost element to it.
Yeah, the cost, saying we can't afford it at this time. We had a plan that we had all collectively approved, saying Blue Cart 2019, Green Cart 2021, and I hate to see us miss our targets. And if we don't review this until 2022, it won't be implemented till at least 2023, and that's a few more years of putting waste into the landfill that could have been avoided. I hope that we catch up with other communities and implement the full suite of recycling options for our citizens.
And when will this be revisited then?
When we review the capital plan for the city. So where will the $19 million come from to fund the capital, and then how can we fund the operating cost of this program? And I think both can be done at no additional cost to taxpayers.
Okay. Well, I'm running out of time. Always a delight to have you in the studio here, so thank you so much for making time for us today, Mayor Spearman.
I appreciate the opportunities, and anytime people have questions, please write to me, mayor@lethbridge.ca.